Hey there guys, welcome back. This is Mr. Sheline, and we're going to be working today on this line graph activity for physical science, unit 1.3, and this is practice. Okay, so the directions here: use the provided graphing paper and create a line graph with the following while following along with the video walkthrough with me, Mr. Sheline. This will be due the next time you're in class. So Jimmy, let's get into this scenario here and the data. So Jimmy happened to be playing and having a lot of fun with his friends when all of a sudden he became violently ill. He went to the doctor to get checked out and to get some treatment. So the doctor decided to take a swab from his cheek and then culture the bacteria from his throat. Ooh, that's kind of weird. Then he watched the cultures grow over a period of 6 days. Here are the results. Okay, so day 1, there was 4 bacteria. Day 2, 16. Day 3, there was 40. Day 4, there was 80. Day 5, there was 100. And then day 6, there was 200. Okay, so here's our data. Now what we've got to do is we now have to answer the questions below here. So answer number 1, what is the independent variable? So I want you guys to pause here, figure this out on your own, and then play it, and then you'll find out the answer. Okay, so the independent variable in this case is going to be the days, okay, the number of days, okay, because remember, days don't care, time doesn't care, what you're doing. It's going to keep going, and on top of that, we're choosing the days that we're looking at this and seeing if the days affect the number of bacteria, because the number of bacteria cannot affect the number of days, okay, or whatever particular day it is. All right, what's the dependent variable? Let's look at question number 2. What is the dependent variable? So pause it here, answer this on your own, and then find out the answer after that. Okay, so the dependent variable in this case is going to be the number of bacteria, or we'll say growth of bacterial cultures. Bacterial cultures. That's what we're going to say there. So growth of bacterial cultures. Okay, the number 3, create a data table that with the provided graphing paper. So with the graphing paper that was provided to us, we're going to make a data table. You can, if you've already got your data table, you can fast forward a little bit and check it out. If not, follow along with me. If you need some help, let's go ahead and make this. So you're probably going to need a ruler in doing this, or you should have a ruler just to make it a little nice and neat. And we're going to make it on this graph paper just so we can, again, make it look a little tidier. So let's put it up here in the top right-hand corner, just because it's going to look nice up here. So let's do this. Because we've got all this space over here, I'd say about this much space. Let's go ahead and put it up here. But we're going to have the outside of it follow along the outside line of our graph here. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go every 3 squares for my columns. So as an example here, I'm going to write my header. Here are my days. Okay. And I'm going to have 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to have my day column in these 3 squares, and then I'm going to have my bacterial growth. I'm going to have those values in these 3 squares here. So now I'm going to need I'm going to need my ruler, just to make things a little tidier. Box these guys in. Oh my goodness, my ruler is not agreeing with the paper. Okay, and now maybe I need to kind of bring my camera down a little bit. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. Okay, so now I'm going to start putting down my values here right in the center, just so it looks nice and neat. I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And if I'm blasting out your speakers right now, I apologize. The microphone is now just right in front of my face, so I'll try to keep my volume down just a little bit. Okay, but then what we're going to do is we're going to start making our box here. So let's start making our box. Okay, using our ruler, because we want this to look nice and neat, nice and presentable. Okay, And now let's just split it down the middle. Oops, sorry, split it down the middle. Okay. And now let's fill in the bacterial growth that goes along with this data table. So on day 1, there were 4. Day 2, there was 16. Day 3, there was 40. Day 5, there was 100. And, oh no, God bless, I've already made a boo-boo. Day 5, there was 100, sorry. Day 6 was 200. So here's a great lesson. If you don't have the tools necessary to clean this stuff up, like I do, this is a great example where using pencils is going to be way better. 80, okay. And this is, just so you can see, this is like Bic whiteout. I love this stuff. If you write with pen, this is great. It's a little expensive. Like I think 3 or 4 of these is like $12. So they're not cheap, but they do work really well. Okay, so then let's just kind of finish looking at this guy. Let's the looks of it. Let's draw our lines, just so it looks a little neater. Okay. And there we go. We've got pretty much most of our data table here all ready to go. The last thing that we need is just our title at the top. So let's just keep the simple title. Let's do bacterial growth over 6 days. Just keep it simple. Bacterial growth over 6 days. And then we're going to include that in our box here. You don't have it. I know some teachers, they don't require you to box in your title. Some are fine with just having your title float above your data table. I'm fine either way, as long as you have, you've got a nice and neat title that's clearly the title above, and then your headers right here. That's fine. Okay. So good, so we've got our data table. So that's all that question or that prompt has been answered, it's been completed. So now let's move on to making our graph. Okay, so just like the last graph that we made, we're going to use this side of the graph here just so it's easier, just so it is more presentable, easier to write our y-axis labels over here and just look better. So we can either count 21 of these lines. That if we counted 21, and if we started from 0 and worked our way up to 200, that would fill up about halfway all the way up to here. You can go 21 lines or you can go 22. I'm just going to go 21. So I'm going to count here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So here is where my x-axis, where my y-axis stops, and my x-axis will begin. So that's going to be 0. And I chose this number specifically because I'm going to, just like last time, I'm going to go by tens. Okay, so 10, 20, 30. Here you can skip forward a little bit if you need to. I'm going to fill this in with you. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, and then 140, 150, 160, 170, let's see, 180, oh my goodness, 180, 190, and then lastly 200, sorry, 200 at the top. Okay. Now it's important that we go by the actual lines, because remember, we're making a line graph here. So it's important that we use these lines because we're going to have to plot, like put little dots at the place that the y-axis and the x-axis intersect. Okay, and that'll make sense in a bit if you're a little confused by that. Here, I'm going to raise up my camera just a smidgen, just so we can see. Try to get this whole thing in picture here. Great. Okay. Let's kind of shift it over this way. Now we can see both of these. Okay. So from 0 to 200, okay, we've got our y-axis. Now let's just kind of clean that up. We're going to take our ruler and we're just going to darken the line there just so it looks a lot neater, a lot cooler, a lot better. Good. Now before we move on to the x-axis here, let's now put on our y-axis title. So this one we're going to call just simply bacterial growth, just like it is in our data table. Okay, and there are no units to add here, so it's just bacterial growth. Okay, and we are done with the y-axis. So now this is where it's kind of tricky, because we don't really have a whole lot to put in the x-axis. Okay, we don't have a whole lot. So now it depends upon the graph that you're making, you know, how much you want to space out. Now, because we've got a fairly large range here, we're going from 0 to 200. Oh, and I didn't mention why we went from 0 to 200 really quick. Our lowest value was 4, and then our highest value was 200. We could have gone 210. I decided to go 200, which is fine. But remember, when we, just like in the notes, we want to choose the range that best fits the data that's presented. And if our lowest is 4 and our greatest is 200, we want to have at least, we don't want it to be our range to have numbers or start greater than our lowest number and then finish finish lower than our highest number. Okay. You can go back to the notes and recap that if you don't understand that. I explain it a little bit better in the notes. But anyway, so because we've got a decently sized range here on our y-axis, we need something that's somewhat comparable, something that's comparable on the x-axis, which may be kind of weird since we're just counting, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But it needs to look decent, right? It needs to look better, or it needs to fit this a little bit. Because if we just go by each tick mark here, if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, our graph is just going to be this space right here. It's going to be that big, and it's pretty much going to just look like a big old straight up line where we really can't get a good glimpse of how the data was distributed, or how the data should look, how it should be represented. So I don't know, let's go every 5 lines. Let's go every 5 lines, just because, you know, that'll space it out decently. Let's count every 5 lines, starting here. At every 5th line, we're going to put down one of the days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there's day 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's day 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's day 3. Ooh, and now I'm seeing here, ooh boy, I'm now seeing a problem here, okay? And the problem I'm seeing is that maybe that's spaced out too much. So here, let's maybe back it up a little bit. So I apologize if you're using pen, apologize if I'm ruining this for you. Remember, this is just practice, okay? It might, to be fair, in my example one that I put together, I went 2, but the 2 was a bit too small. So I wanted to go bigger. Maybe that's just too much. So let's go 3, every 3. So 1, 2, 3. Let's do that. 1, 2, 3. There's 2. 1, 2, 3. There's 3. 1, 2, 3. There's 4. 1, 2, 3. There's 5. And then 1, 2, 3. There is 6. Okay. And then we're going to take our ruler here, just like the other side, or just like the y-axis. We're going to put a ruler down. And we're going to make that look nice and neat, just to dress it up. Okay. And then before we start plotting, we need to put our title here, or sorry, our label, and our label here is just going to be days. Easy enough, just days. So we've got our x-axis all done. We've got our values here. We've got our label. We've got our y-axis range in labels and values. So let's get going and let's start plotting. So when we're making a line graph, what we want to do is we want to draw dots at the point at which our y-axis and our x-axis come together, where they intersect, right? So let's just look at day 1. So day 1 over here in our data table, day 1 had a growth of 4 bacterial cultures. Okay. So I'm going to go on here on 1. I'm going to follow this line on 1, and then I'm going to eyeball where I think 4 will be between this line and this line. Okay, so again, between this line and this line, I'm going to eyeball where 4 is. It'll be obviously because 4 is, here, I'm going to zoom in, sorry. This is, I'm still getting used to using this, my little Elmo thing here for making videos. And I apologize if I just ruined your ears too. But anyway, I know that 4 is pretty close to 5, and 5 is about halfway, which is like right here. So I'm going to come here back over to 1, okay, and I'm going to go somewhat halfway, but not entirely, and I'm going to draw a dot, okay. I'm going to look at my data table and see that my data table, here I'm going to bring this guy over, and see that in my data table, day 2, there is a growth of 16. So I'm going to go to 2, and then I'm going to look over here to the left. Here's 10. Same deal. I'm going to go split between 10 and 20. 16 is not exactly halfway. It's just a little above. So I'm going to put my dot there. I'm going to look at my day 3. That's 40. Same thing. Go up on this line. 40. Boom. And then 4. So 4 is going to be 80. So following my line where it intersects. 5 is going to be, let's see, 5 is going to be 100. So 5, there's my line for 5, and then 100. 100 here, coming over, meeting up, there's 5. And then lastly 6, with 6 is a little easier. Here's my line. Oop, let's see, here's my line. And then just fill it in at their top there, that's 200. Okay, so now that we got all of our dots, we've got all of our plots all in, okay. Now all we gotta do is we gotta take our ruler, here, and we're going to then connect them. So because this is a line graph where we are given, we aren't given 0, but it is implied here that on the 0th day, there wasn't any. So we're going to start here at what's called the origin. And the origin here it's the place where it's 0 for the y-axis and it's 0 for the x-axis. So we're going to start here, and we're going to go from our first dot to the origin and just draw right there. Then we're going to connect our second dot to our first dot, third dot to second dot, fourth dot to third dot, and then just keep on going until we've connected all of our dots. Okay, and then boom, we have our line graph, which for the most part accurately represents the distribution of the data that we collected. Okay, good. Now the last thing that we need, the very last thing that we need, hopefully you caught it and hopefully you already have it, we need a title. So we're just going to use the same title that's over here, which was just bacterial growth over 6 days. And we have our graph. So you can color this if you want. If you use different colors, that's fine. If you had teachers that like to box these in, that's also fine. But that's pretty much it. We've got our title, we've got our labels, we've got a good range for both the y-axis and the x-axis. We have a clear and concise and readable line graph. We've got our data table, and it's all good. And that's pretty much it for the video, guys. So if you have any questions, if you would like to subscribe, go ahead. Just make sure you get a hold of me however you can. If not, I'll see you guys in the next video.